Researchers at the University of British Columbia published evidence that, in fact, hearing is the last sense to go. During the process of active death, people often become unresponsive. For this study, scientists used EEGs to confirm that the brain responds to auditory stimuli, even close to death. EEGs revealed that a dying brain responds to sound even during the final hours of life. Hey everybody, I'm Ebony, I'm your Sunset Doula, and today we are going to talk about hearing being the last sense to go. And why do we even care? Why does it even matter? Why is it important? Why do people need to be conscious that their loved ones can still hear? I have so many stories about watching people die, about feeling a person's energy leave before or during those final breaths. And I have many stories about people who needed to hear specific things or from specific people before they were willing to let go. I'm going to tell you about one of the last stories that really impacted me. It was while I was performing an EEG on a patient, and I brought receipts. So watch until the end and subscribe on the way. This is a quote from Elizabeth Blundon. She was a PhD student in psychology at the time of the study and was the study's lead author. In the last hours before an expected natural death, many people enter a period of unresponsiveness. Our data shows that a dying brain can respond to sound, even in an unconscious state, up to the last hours of life. Blundon and Ward collaborated with Dr. Romaine Gallagher, a palliative care doctor who has since retired. This research required patients to give their consent in advance. 13 families participated, and brain recordings were recorded. In Gallagher's 30 years of treating dying patients, she has witnessed positive reactions in people when loved ones spoke to them in their final moments. Gallagher and her colleagues often wondered if hearing was the last sense to go. She contacted Ward to see if their theory could be proven. First, what's an EEG? An EEG, or electroencephalogram, is a test that measures the electrical activity of the brain using small metal discs or electrodes attached to the scalp at specific points of the skull. Brain cells communicate via electrical impulses, and they are active all of the time, even during sleep. This activity shows up as wavy lines on an EEG. An EEG is one of the major diagnostics for epilepsy, but can also be used to diagnose a variety of other neurological or brain disorders. For this study, they analyzed 3 different EEG measured brain responses to auditory patterns in 17 conscious, healthy young participants, 8 hospice patients who were conscious, and 5 hospice patients who were unconscious, who were actively dying and unresponsive. When someone says actively dying, that means that their systems are actively shutting down. Their body systems and their organs are actively shutting down. Participants in all 3 groups listened to a series of 5-tone auditory patterns while an EEG tracked their neural responses. These responses were selected as they indicate a person is able to perceive auditory information and focus their attention on the auditory signal, either voluntarily or automatically. The researchers analyzed neural activity as participants heard tone changes and pattern changes. The results covered a range of findings outlining similarities and differences in neural responses to auditory patterns between the 3 groups of participants. The results prove evident that for at least some individuals, their brains continue to process auditory information, even if they don't respond in a noticeable way through a turn of a head or a change in eye gaze direction or toe taps to the beat. Additionally, they reported that some of the neural response patterns in the participants that were unconscious were similar to those that were seen in the young, healthy participants, indicating that their brains were processing what they were hearing in perhaps surprisingly typical ways. A quote from Gallagher: "This research gives credence to the fact that hospice nurses and physicians noticed that the sounds of loved ones helped comfort people when they were dying," says Gallagher. And to me, it adds significant meaning to the last days and hours of life and shows that being present in person or by phone is meaningful. It is a comfort to be able to say goodbye and express love. I found an article in Psychology Today that says a significant percentage of professional music therapists in the United States provide end-of-life care, often through working for a hospice agency. This is an area of practice where musical therapists can positively impact the quality of life for patients and their families by addressing various physiological, social, emotional, and spiritual needs. Music reaches people when very other things do. We are electric beings, and we are deeply affected by the electricity around us. A brain will pick up electrical artifact from a hospital bed being plugged in, or a telephone being too close to the bed, or a phone charger plugged in the wall. These are things that I've had to unplug and turn off just to get a clear EEG reading. We're electric, we really are. There's a doctor who's quoted in this article saying, "Though I have little personal experience in hospice and end-of-life care, I have many friends and colleagues who do. These hospice music therapists love their work, and for good reason. They talk about the unique privilege it is to be with their patients and their families during this transitional period of life, how it offers perspective and reminds them of what it means to connect, live, and feel." Exactly why I love end-of-life work. For all of those reasons, it's really hard to sweat the small stuff when you are standing at the gate of mortality constantly, when you're seeing people walk with their loved ones to the gate and stand there and say goodbye. It puts everything into perspective. That's why being conscious about this is so important. There is evidence that is more than just a notion, an idea that gets passed down from hospice nurses to their patients. In those final moments, keep talking to them. Keep talking and singing to your loved ones. Include them in the conversation, even if they don't respond. Play music, their favorite movie in the background. Maybe even accept that music therapists offer to play music for you and your loved one during this time of transition. It is important because people freeze. They freeze. They don't know what to do with their hands. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. Or worse, they're in the room talking over the patient as if they're not even there, or saying things that they shouldn't be saying, that they wouldn't be saying if they knew the person could hear them for sure. Talking negatively about the patient's condition, or fighting about end-of-life decisions, or fighting about a person's estate. What you do and say around a person who is dying matters. They will often wait for someone to come or call before they will let go. Or sometimes they need to be told it's okay to go from the people who are closest to them. I have both extensive hospice experience and experience as an EEG technician. I've witnessed several people die while an EEG was recording. And it's proved to me that we are really just energy. And energy doesn't die. Last November, I performed a portable EEG on an ICU patient in a small hospital in Houston, Texas. As soon as I walked into the hospital, I was confronted with the energy of this family. Some of the younger ones had congregated in the parking lot when I was walking up. The older people were lining the hallway. Please don't let it be this family's person. And of course it was. As soon as I walk into the room, I can tell that this person is dying, that these people are saying goodbye, and I instantly feel like I'm intruding. But I know that I'm wanted, I'm needed, I'm there because they're trying to figure out if there's any brain activity so they can know what to tell the family, and the family can decide how to move forward. This man is a young man. He's in his 40s and he is clearly loved. I tell the family what I'm about to do, encourage them to keep coming up and talking to him while I hook up the equipment. An EEG involves putting all these little electrodes all over the skull and forehead, and it takes me about 20 minutes to clean and apply all of these different electrodes to the patient. I tell the family that I'm going to start the study, and I'm encouraging them to be quiet while we start the recording. As soon as I hook up the EEG, I can tell that the prognosis is not going to be good. The patient's brain waves are very flat, and he's not responding to touch. He's not responding when I squeeze his hands, when I do a sternum rub, when I pinch his toes. He's not responding to any of the touch. About halfway into the study, this woman with this red sweatshirt comes and she's talking to him, and I could hear her, "I love you so much." And I look up at the screen, she's knocked off one of the electrodes. And I went and I put it back, and I scrolled back on the study after I reapplied it so that I could notate what had happened for the doctor. Right around the time when she started talking to him, when she walked over and started talking to him, then all of a sudden he had brainwaves. All of a sudden, they weren't normal brainwaves, but there was undoubtable neuroactivity only while she was talking to him for the whole study. Only when this woman was talking to him. I whipped around, caught myself because I wanted to tell her, "Oh my God," but I couldn't. Wherever this man's energy was, wherever it was, it did not seem to be in his body, or at least not his brain, during the time of this recording. It appeared to me to come back in that moment for that woman. There was 40 family members there. There were 40 different people there waiting for him. And it was this specific woman that he returned for. I have no doubt that he was present for her in that moment. I only hope she felt it. I wanted to tell her so badly. I told everyone I knew about the story. I cried for a week, but I was there as an EEG technician, not as a death doula. I wasn't there in the right capacity, and if the woman had taken it negatively, I probably would have been fired, or at least prohibited from returning to that specific hospital. The important takeaway is that if you find yourself sitting next to someone who is transitioning, touch them and talk to them. You can reach them. Tell them you forgive them, or ask for forgiveness. Reminisce, tell stories, play music, laugh, cry. Tell them what you'll miss the most about them. And if you see that they are scared or in pain, tell them it's okay to go. If you like me, like this video. And if you want even more content, subscribe to my Sunset Times monthly newsletter. It's free, link in the description. Talking and thinking about death can be really scary. So check out the video I did on how to overcome the fear of death. And here it is. Until next time, friend, peace.